Howdy once again, it's Mr. Pete, your original YouTube shop teacher. Welcome back to the South Bend Shaper rebuild. So here I am with all the parts refinished, repainted, cleaned, semi-restored, ready to start the assembly. So let's have some fun. I don't know whether this is going to take one or two videos. I'll try to show some detail, but I have to rush through some of it. So let's begin, shall we? Well, as noted earlier, there's a lot of parts here. Just about everything is ready to go other than taking the masking off of these last few pieces that I painted yesterday. And the difficult part now begins, so I got to get out the manual, see if I can figure this out. Everything has been refurbished except for the vise, which I have temporarily lost interest in. This is a piece of test footage just to see how this looks with the black background compared to the brighter orange background. Now here's the same part with a brighter orange background. Which shows up better? This is all about contrast. You may have noticed in a previous video clip that I had missed a spot on the cross rail here as far as painting is concerned, so I had to go back and do that. Now this is going to delay me by one day in the reassembly, but to be honest with you, I need a day off. And here's another spot that I missed, and this is due to the incompetence of old age, of course. So, and this actually never shows, but I just have to paint it. So what I wanted to tell you though really is that you'll notice that a lot of the castings that you run across on machine tools are primed with a red primer, and here is my take on that. Often these castings, like for lathes and machine tools, are seasoned. That means that they are cast in the foundry, they are cleaned up, snagged, they call it, tumbled, or whatever they got to do to them, sandblast them. Then they prime them and put them outdoors in a yard in large quantities for about 6 months, maybe more. I'm not sure the exact length. And this causes the casting to become stable so that once you machine it, it doesn't change shape a little bit. So fairly important. I'm not sure they still do that. I think that sometimes that can be bypassed by stress relieving with vibration and so on. But let me go ahead and paint this red now. Before I reassemble, I'm very carefully examining the dovetails on both sides, the internal and the external, and I did find a nick or two on this, deep enough to where I had to very gently file it to remove that. And then I'm taking a hone given to me by Lance. You remember these precision hones, and this is its inaugural run, by the way. And very carefully stoning this. And I don't feel any clicking or high spots or nicks. We don't care if we have a low spot. You can see a little bit of a groove here. Nothing we can do about that, but we do want to remove all of the high spots. And then similarly, I'll take the same stone always wipe the stone and the surface that you're going to hone. Now I can't get in up there. I won't show all of this, but I have some of these tapered slip stones in various sizes, and those are useful in getting into those tight spots. And the gib itself has already been cleaned, and a special attention paid to the oil galleries here, which were kind of clogged. But that too, I want to hone. I'll probably do that on the table. And they look in good shape, but that needs to be honed and then cleaned and honed again and cleaned again. Now this side isn't as important, but we don't want any high spots either. That's where the gib screws hold it in place. Note also there's a little hole here for the oil. These female dovetails are really difficult to get into, and I don't think this is going to show up very well on the screen, but you really need one of those, like this, thin wedge-shaped slip stones to get in there. Wipe it clean first, always. That'll go all the way down into that acute corner. And I don't feel any clicking or any high spots. So I don't think that'll take much, but I just wanted to do that before I assemble it. Then clean everything with thinner when you assemble and pre-oil it. Make sure there's no paint on those surfaces. I thought I'd explain this while I'm at it. Again, this is the cross rail, this is the gib, and these dovetails are what ride on the column for the vertical motion. Again, that little spot right there is what this lock pushes up against, but I did take this out and it was about stuck. I've got it cleaned already, but that's what pushes against the male dovetail. But before I assemble it, I believe I'll take this set screw out so that the handle comes out, so that I ultimately have the right orientation when I install this, because it's really about a half of a turn is all you get to tighten it up. And I'll oil that before I put it in. Everything needs to be oiled. You guys that work on engines know that. With this close-up shot, you can see how the gib is forced out. Well, at long last, I'm ready to start the reassembly. Everything is painted and cleaned and ready to go. And I think I'll start with putting the cross rail onto the column. So this will just be a reverse of what I've done before, and start by putting the gib in there, the gib screws, just lightly to hold this in place, oil everything, and slide the cross rail onto this dovetail. Let's begin. Now I'm just snugging up the gibs so it literally won't slide by gravity. And I'm fitting up the gib lock here so that 1/4 of a turn will lock this slide. In other words, I'm orienting it so that it locks. And now to get the base bolted onto the column. Now the bolts are only finger tight, so I have to line up the dowel pin holes. See if they'll go in. Well, I better get a little oil on these. You never know. Oh, that one went right in. Now, how about this one? That's good, and now I will tighten up all 4 bolts. That one requires a wrench. as I assemble the gears, one thing to note is that the worm gear is concave to accommodate the worm, and that is why I was unable to pull it out this way during disassembly, and it has to be reassembled in the right order. In other words, the worm gear in first, and then I can install the worm. Another thing to note in regards to these tapered machine pins, they will go in one way, but of course not the other. That's as far as it'll go in there. Also note that when they drill these, they are drilled off center, because no doubt they did it with a portable drill upon assembly, not in a drill press ahead of time, so it's nowhere near on center. And those sins have been hidden all these years. The first thing I will do is to oil the thread and the pilot here on the end. And you're not going to be able to see this, but once I put the thread through here, there'll be a collar here that I'm going to slip on from the other side, and I'm orienting it according to some marks that I made weeks ago. So let's see if that'll go in, and it will. And now I want to try to thread this into the cross slide, which you can't see. Remember, there is a steel or iron nut on the other side of this. Okay. I may be showing you more than you need to know, but this is what I'm working on here. There's that collar, and that pilot has gone through the nut. And now I'm screwing it in, just by turning it by hand. I have to make sure that it's aligned correctly, because, and I've loosened this set screw right here, so that this nut can move in and out or rotate slightly for alignment. And now I will screw the screw all the way in, holding onto the gear, until the pilot on the end of the screw shaft engages with the pilot hole in the main casting. Is that clear as mud? All right, a little more light on the subject, and I would politely suggest to some other YouTube creators, please use more light. Make sure everything is lit, or really all is for naught. You see what I talked about before, the concave, maybe this is too much related information, but this goes up like that, and you see now it'll fit in. It will not pull out toward me. It has to come in from this way, so I will put a little earl, if I can find it here, right there, there, and I'm going to grease these gears here in a minute after they're meshed and in place, so I don't have that terrible mess. And again, this shaft here, oil, and I've already oiled the hole above here, which is out of your view, and I think I better see where my mark is. See, that goes in like that, and like that. And then find the hole. I know my big hand's in the way, isn't it? It's heck to be old. And then, of course, on the bottom here, we have the collar. There. And now a nice dose of multi-service lubricating grease. You know, this may not get greased for another 70 years, you never know. Although these gears do not seem to be worn at all, but they're hardened, of course. All right, that's it. Now to turn the whole machine back up on its feet upright, and that's no easy job now because the machine is getting heavy. Well, Jordan helped me turn the machine up onto its feet, and that's about a day's work. That concludes this video. Be sure and watch the completion of the assembly in the following video. This is Mr. Pete saying so long for now.